Red Bank, Tennessee is the city that was formed in 1955, the third oldest home rule charter in the state. It is nestled it's completely surrounded by Chattanooga. It is its own municipal corporation. It has a mayor, John Roberts. John describes himself as a figurehead with the real authority in the executive authority residing in the city manager's office, that post held by Randall Smith. About 11,000 people live in Red Bank, and it has worked to overcome what were sort of self-inflicted problems that gave it in the eyes and ears of many a kind of bad reputation. One, I think, would be the end, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, of the traffic cameras that dotted 5 years ago that dotted the intersections of this town. John, tell my listener what's looking ahead for Red Bank. What is the big news coming from this small town here in the Chattanooga area?
Well, David, thanks for allowing me to come on here and talk with you today. I guess the biggest thing is property values are growing. You know, somewhere around about 19% over the last 4 years. They just continues to grow, and they continues to grow from a residential standpoint. The thing that's lagging behind right now is still commercial. The type of commercial that we're getting into Red Bank is your small business owners, your bakeries, your insurance agents.
And they're coming into existing buildings, right? They're repurposing buildings without doing a lot of modification.
Absolutely not. No, there's some facade changes on certain buildings, but most of it is the residential, and that's been going on for realistically probably since 2012. That the city has really just started to grow and take off by just getting the neighborhoods and start cleaning up the neighborhoods, spending money on infrastructure projects, paving roads, secondary roads. Largest secondary road infrastructure project happened 5 years ago over 2 summers.
What was that?
That was roughly about 155 secondary roads in the city of Red Bank. Roads were terrible. My wife was pregnant in 2012 with our first child, and driving her back and forth to the doctor sometimes because she was bedridden at the time. Those roads looked like third world country roads, and it was bad. And I thought sometimes that she was going to give birth on one of these roads. So it just made me think, it's like, we need to fix these infrastructure projects that haven't been taken care of over the last so many years. So I went to the public works director, Tim Thornberry, at the time was interim city manager, John Alexander. In 2011, I was like, get me a list, get a map, highlight the worst roads in Red Bank, and we're going to tackle these problems.
We're talking with John Roberts. He's 41 years old, and he's making reference to his wife, Tiffany. They have 2 children. One is 5, and one is 19 months. He's been the mayor of Red Bank since 2010. Well, going just back just a little bit, why are real estate values in the city rising? Why are people coming here or building in Red Bank? What's drawing them?
Well, 2 factors. North Chattanooga's filled up. We all know it. North Chattanooga's filled up. So we're getting a lot of the overflow. We've gone out and market. What I'm doing right now, roughly about 5 or 6 years ago, started marketing the city, coming on radio stations. I'm not going to say another radio station, but just go and talk to commercial realtors, residential realtors, and talking about, hey, come to Red Bank. Look what we're doing. Here, you know, hearing from me as the mayor of Red Bank at that time, and still the mayor, is just talking about is marketing, trying to take a business philosophy and put it into Red Bank and trying to move Red Bank forward. And that's what we've done. Primary example. So I gave a speech a little bit over a month ago at the Pachyderm Club, and I asked for some numbers from the public works director in regards to property values for new residential construction in Red Bank. And he said current permits right now for 2017 is 37 new residential developments. That's from footers all the way up for completion of a house. A value of $11 million.
Well, back up, 37 residential developments. Does that mean 37 residential projects?
Yeah, 37 residential homes.
Okay.
A value of $11 million and change. Average house, $305,000. So, you know, you get a lot of that. That's what we're seeing right now. It's a hot market, Red Bank. You talk to any residential realtor out there, Red Bank's a hot market. You know, we've been cleaning up the city for the last, since I've been on board since 2010, to be honest with you.
If my listener lives in Red Bank and has a house valued on the tax rolls at, let's say, $150,000, what would you guess is his tax bill for the city?
I'm not going to guess at that, but we didn't raise taxes this year.
Didn't raise taxes this year.
We didn't raise taxes. We didn't go up to the new tax rate or the previous tax rate.
Does Red Bank have debt, John Roberts, mayor?
We do. We have some debt. Most cities do have debt. We roughly about have, after the fiscal year of 2017, we'll roughly have about $500 and something thousand in debt. For a city that's a budget of $6 million, that's our budget each year, $6 million and change. And then we keep somewhere around the reserves of cash flow, roughly about $3 to $4 million.
Now, explain, John Roberts. You say you're a figurehead. The mayor, that's you. Then there's you are the chief executive of the three branches. Every city in the United States has three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. In the city court, the manager, Randall Smith, is the man who executes. How does that work exactly? What is your authority to make things happen, or are you just giving pep talks to Kiwanis meetings?
Well, I'm giving pep talks. Well, of course, I have to give pep talks as the mayor of Red Bank. But let me tell you. So,
what authority do you actually have in making things happen and voting? Let's just say. What do you vote on?
I will tell you that we vote on resolutions and ordinances. We pass on the budget. We direct the path of the city. We tell the city manager, as a board, as a whole, to tell where we want to take this city, regards to where we want to spend our money on infrastructure projects. The city manager's duties is to run the day-to-day operations. That's it. He hires and fires people. That's all he's in charge of.
Don't.
I'd absolutely. The only person that we can fire is the city manager. That's the only person.
And you're saying that's in the charter of Red Bank,
yes,
founded in 1955.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's the only authority. Okay. Well, now what else can you tell my listener about your city? There are many empty shells of buildings that they look rather out of date all along Dayton Boulevard. What about those? Why have people left? What is the argument to make them come back? Is there something substantial that you and the town council can make in the way of an argument to come back, which I would suggest would be maybe a tax-free zone or something like that? How these buildings become empty, and what can you do to bring them back?
If you know anything in regards to, if you look back in 2008 when everything crashed, the residential, the commercial all crashed. The commercial took some time to recoup. Residential got some modem, and they started moving forward. The commercial is still hesitant. They're waiting to see if the property values continue to grow in Red Bank like they have from a residential standpoint. And the stuff that we're seeing, and I talk to a lot of realtors on a day-to-day basis, is that the city property values are going up from a residential standpoint. Let the people come in, show proof that they have disposable income, then the commercial comes in second. So we are starting to see the small business owners fill up a lot of these empty spots in Red Bank.
Give some examples.
Okay, so bread and butter came in. They are a bakery. They are the types of businesses that the citizens like. The citizens of the past are different types of citizens, and the citizens are moving into Red Bank. They like the small business owners. They like the bakeries. They like the coffee shops. They like the places where they can come and meet. So I brokered the deal to get the Meeting House to come into Red Bank, the first and only coffee shop in Red Bank. We talked to
which is connected to the Christian church, right? Is connected to the Anglican mission from Africa?
I have no idea. I've never been to church there, so I can't tell you that.
Okay.
So all I know is Al Allison has a church there on Sundays, but Monday through Saturday is a coffee shop. So that's, so I've done that. Dirty Jane's.
What's that about?
That's let me see, how would I classify that? Is a antique shop. They used to be down there in the knitting mill on Manufacturing Road. So now they have moved into, one of the people brought it over to Red Bank in the old Mill and Mine building, and it's Dirty Jane's. Our Ace Hardware in Red Bank, I believe is correct, is the number 2 best-selling Ace Hardware in their area. And the last thing is our Food City is one of the best, brings in sales tax revenue for their stores, one of the best food cities and all that. City of Red Bank in the future will go back to this original philosophy from the 50s. It was supposed to have been set up as a bedroom community somewhere about in the 70s. They thought they compete with Hickson, Northgate, and everything. So they just couldn't. And what happens is 27 goes on top of the hill and bypasses. So our philosophy is to make it a bedroom community, strong neighborhoods, And that's our philosophy for the city of Red Bank.
And small, dotting of small businesses on the main drag.
Absolutely. You know, your boutique shop, stuff like that, your hairdressers, all those types of places. The small business owners, that's the types, you know, we have a microbrewery in Red Bank, Big Frog Brewery.
Now, there's a locally owned hardware store. Where did that go?
Well, I mean, Red Bank Hardware Store has been gone for years. You know, Ace Hardware.
Well, the one that moved out just last year. Didn't one move?
Our hardware store? Mill of Mine left. They went back to internet sales. That's all they do. So they went to Sequatchie County. So that was replaced with Dirty James. So that's types of businesses that we're getting into Red Bank. And, you know, the Haskew building's been fixed up. That's a yoga mat facility. We have J-Lick, just another little internet company, the guy that makes the swords for Game of Thrones that I've never seen before, but I heard it's a great show. So, you know, we get these types of small business owners in there. There are three key areas that we still need to work on. Save a Lot. I talked to Solomon, who's the owner of that complex, that, you know, we always try to work with him, trying to find something we'll revamp or.
Are you trying to get a business next to the Save a Lot?
No, what we're trying to do is that we just work as much information I'm allowed to give out. Is that from an economic standpoint? Is I work closely with Solomon, the owner of Save a Lot. And you're going to bring up something about a police officer.
Yes, I am. I have here a picture of Mark Kaler, who was acquitted by a jury in about a year ago in the abuse and beating of Candido Medina Resendez. He's not on the police department now. There are, according to my last review was you have about 25 officers in the police department. Is that the largest executive branch agency of city government in Red Bank?
For employees?
Yes. 25 officers, 2 staff.
I would think that Public Works is bigger. We have roughly about 77 employees. Public Works is bigger, but it's broken up in different sections of a budget if you look at it.
Well, he was found not guilty of using excessive force, and there was a hung jury on one other point, and the criminal court judge Tom Greenholz dismissed that charge as a hung jury. So the question I have for you, John Roberts, is the existence of a police department. We do have a sheriff here in Helmand County, Jim Hammond. Is there any thought that perhaps policing could be ended as a tax-consuming branch of the executive department, and have the sheriff enforce laws and keep the peace in the county, in the city?
No.
Has anyone proposed that?
No. No, and I wouldn't support it. And the reason, I'm going to tell you the reason why. The reason why is that I believe that you would lose some type of control, of local control from a city manager standpoint, from a body, from us as a government, to see how the city manager runs the day-to-day operations of Red Bank. I believe once you can, get government so big and controls a big metropolitan area like Davidson County, I believe you lose some type of representation in that. So So
policing is a form of social management that you need to have.
Well, I wouldn't say I like it. And I'll be honest with you. I feel secure living in Red Bank with our police department. We're a city that's 1.5 miles wide, 6 miles long. We roughly run about 3 to 4 police officers per shift in the city of Red Bank. I feel secure. I have seen the police come into action. I've seen the response time 2 to 3 minutes. I'm away from the house every day working. My wife and, we have 2 kids. Jackson's in kindergarten. Maddie and my wife are at home right now. It would kill me that I know that someone was going to try to come in the house. My wife, gets nervous, hears somebody trying to come through the house, calls 911. I don't want the police to wait 20 or 30 minutes to come because the county operates.
You're talking about a sheriff's deputy.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
You wouldn't want to wait for a sheriff's deputy.
Yeah, I do
20
not.
minutes.
I do not. No, I want that Red Bank police officer who I see and talk to, and we joke around and have a good relationship. I want the response to be 1 or 2 minutes, and I know that the Red Bank Police Department is going to be there. I've seen them in action, just like the Red Bank Fire Department. I have seen them in action. I'll tell you a funny story. You want to hear a funny story?
Go ahead.
All right.
I'm not done, but make it quick.
Okay. Well, you go ahead.
Well,
and I'll give you a funny story before we leave.
Okay. This is David Tulis. We're talking with John Roberts, who's the mayor of Red Bank. He's a part-time position, and he works. What's that?
Part-time pay.
Part-time pay. He makes his bread working as an agent for Atlas Insurance. Well, the question I have is this: you have an executive branch department, and the abusive language that I'm hearing from the mouths of the police officers is just astounding. In the beating of Resendez, you have MF, you have F, you have SH, and D, and stupid F. I mean, these are the kinds of things that officers think. Now, is it in your mind permissible for city employees dealing with members of the public to use language like that, John Roberts?
Well, that goes back to day-to-day operations. You know, I was not involved in regards to how this whole thing played out or anything. So, you know, you need to take that up with the city manager. But let me say this, George, is that the language regards to any police officer using that is probably a little bit of inappropriate, but that goes back to the city manager. That's his job. He's a CEO. We're like a corporation. We're just board members. That's all we are. We're board members. He's the CEO of the day-to-day operations for the city of Red Bank. And that's how I would utilize it.
And you're the figurehead, and so you're out in the public, and you're not getting us. You're saying that you're in that comment that you're not getting any sense from the public that this is a problem. People are not complaining to you about what they heard on that video.
Well, that was a year ago, so yes. You know, things have moved on since then. You know, I haven't received a phone call in regards to that. I guess the biggest phone call I've received is there's a pothole on my street that we need to get taken care of. You know, let's talk about infrastructure projects that Red Bank's going to hopefully get taken care of next year. That paving of Dayton Boulevard. You know, that's the gripes I'm hearing right now as regards to the complaints of Red Bank is, you know, Dayton Boulevard needs to be fixed. Absolutely, Dayton Boulevard needs to be fixed. We got to fix the corner of Dayton Boulevard and Ashland Terrace. We're going to dig up that road right there, and we're going to put a new culvert in because Stringer's Creek runs through there, and that takes so much time because of the permitting and everything. So, you know, these are the complaints I'm hearing right now from the citizens of Red Bank regards to the road and everything. I'm aware of it.
In Chattanooga, we're hearing a lot about federal regulations on stormwater. What is this? I've not heard a peep of any kind of stormwater story out of Red Bank, Mayor John Roberts. How are dealings with environmental regulators in your city?
Well, the stormwater is handled by the county. So the county handles our stormwater for us. So that's, you know, when there's a permit pulled, I know that Public Works would say, you know, for new residential construction, that the permit pulls and goes from there.
This is David Tulis, caller. You're live on the air with John Roberts. What's on your mind?
I got a few questions. My dad was a police officer for 35 years, retired in 1984. If he used foul language, he'd be immediately fired. And this was in the Philadelphia area. You're professionals. You don't use foul language on the job. So that's immediate termination. You don't get a second chance. And this is at the time where in the 60s they called police pigs and cursed at him, and he went out in riot gear. It's not like today, and they still had to maintain professionalism. They weren't the military. They were peacekeepers, so there's no excuse. Question is, why does Red Bank refuse to give information regarding where checkpoints are? That's a clear violation of the law, blatantly unconstitutional. And why does Red Bank believe they're above the law?
All right, go ahead. John Roberts.
Well, that's a question that has to go out to the city manager. You need call him, 877-1103, phone number at City Hall.
And, well, I think the caller is referring to is the fact that it's not really a law that there has to be notice given, but it is policy from the High Court in the Hicks decision and the earlier Downey decision on roadblocks. Roadblocks are unconstitutional, but the court allows them under the doctrine of compelling state interest. And the policy is that if there is a roadblock, it has to be published. And what Saudi Daisy does, which has been pretty careful to honor that rule, it's not a law, it's just a rule, is to have a 1-inch deep blurb in the classifieds in the Times Free Press saying we're going to have a roadblock at this point, at this time. And that's what the caller's asking about, John Roberts.
Okay. Well, like I said, he needs to contact the city manager.
Okay. Well, we'll do that. This is David Tulis. We're talking with John Roberts. Now, you had, John, a funny story.
So we're talking about response, you know, for fire, police. The quick story is that got elected in 2010, 2011. My wife and I were playing with some fireworks. We caught the front yard on fire. As crazy it was, we had to call the police. We had to call the fire department. You know, as crazy it was, they says, well, commissioner, at that time I was commissioner. It's like, well, is this your neighbor's house? I should have said yes, but I told the truth. I said, no, it's my house. I caught the front yard on fire. They were there in 2 minutes. When you talk about response, You talk about public safety, and you talk about, what I'm saying today is that it's very important. Everybody doesn't have a gun in their house. Everybody doesn't believe in that. So from a community standpoint, you have to have police. You have to have fire. So I think we have a great police department. I think we have a great fire department, and our public works department do a phenomenal job too. Thanks.
This is David Tulis and John Roberts. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
John is the mayor of Red Bank, and the big news is that real estate values on the residential side are going up. Better quality people, he's telling us, are moving into Red Bank, and life is returning to the quiescent retail sector. This is David Tulis. We've got some important announcements. We argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local, and the name is David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio, Digital FM 95.3 HD4.